Hello and welcome to Husky Talk, Broker Than You. I am your host, the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully. I would like to thank our sponsors at Procyon Partners. They are one of the top 50 fastest growing companies in the nation. They specialize in employee benefits, wealth management, and retirement planning. President Sean Rabinowitz, proud supporter of Husky Talk, and he is going to get me a Tesla any day now. Green Street Trust International, owned by Rennell Jump down in West Palm Beach, Florida. They offer a variety of services, but they specialize in tax plans for businesses. They will save you money, or in some cases, get you a nice big fat return. To schedule your free strategic tax planning session today, go to www.greenstreettrust.com. We have Pete Finch and the Finch Law Firm out of Bridgeport, Connecticut. If you suffered any type of personal injury, if you've had a slip or fall, if a construction beam fell on you at a site, if your mother-in-law ran you over with her car, the Finch firm is for you. He's won wars all over the state of Connecticut. He's not afraid of any insurance company. He will get you every dollar that you deserve in compensation. All you have to do is go to thefinchfirm.com and schedule your free consultation with him. We have Dynamic Human Performance, owned and operated by UConn legendary running back Andre Dixon. He trains boys and girls of all ages, of all sports. He has just introduced a new athletic development program where he will train you from the ground up in the sport of your choice, develop you so you can reach your potential and be the best you can be and have a chance to play at the next level. Andre has sent many kids, again, boys and girls, to college on scholarships. So if you want to be the best and you're in Hartford, Connecticut, he's got a 5,000 square foot facility, state of the art. Go to dynamichumanperformance.com and sign up now. In contrast, if you are down south, we have Julius Williams, who runs the Trench Mob in Decatur, Georgia. He trains offensive and defensive linemen, some of the best that I've ever seen. We have the Trench Mob show tonight at 7:30, where we watch some of his top players and evaluate how well they are doing. Julius has 5-versus-5 camps all over the country, which is basically one-on-ones for offensive and defensive linemen. They have won 3 tournaments out of the first 3 that they've played. They've done outstanding. He's got talent that for days. He had a kid who is a 2027 graduate, going to be a 2027 graduate, a freshman or whatnot. I watched his film. The kid looks like he's 32 years old and could block anyone. Julius and his team, he's got a great team of coaches. He has a great person who does social media, does all their film. Their film goes to colleges, and kids get offered based off that film. So if you want a chance at a college scholarship, he's got guys at Florida, Florida State, Miami, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, you name it. He's got somebody there, and he's got connections there. Go to battleofthetrenches.com and sign up to work with Julius. And now for the man of the hour, the king of real estate in Erie, Pennsylvania, Mr. Laban Marsh. Laban, it is so great to see you once again. I apologize. We missed last week, and we get to catch up this week.
Yeah, and then the week before that, we had, I don't know what's going on. I'm such an amateur podcast host. The technology always
you
fails.
sound great. You sound great. You sound
Wow.
great.
You can see my large and beautiful ears without my headphones on. But it is good. Go ahead. It's good to see you, though. And it's good to be back.
We'll do a test run the next time before to see if we can pinpoint what the issue is.
And I mean, it's not like even I had a coaching call last Friday, and I usually do that through Zoom. Same thing. He said he was getting some feedback. So, of course, I order brand new cables, and that still didn't make a difference. I think it's just me, maybe my aura here.
The C cable wasn't working.
I don't know. I mean, I got a brand new one, and you're saying it's not working again, but it's just one of those things where I did want to also bring up, because you're a Northeastern, United States kind of guy. You've heard the term for March where it's in like a lion, out like a lamb, right? So my business coach is from South Carolina, and one of the guys,
Trevor, I love Trevor.
yeah, he's great. He's great. But one of our other guys, Evan, he's always been in South Carolina because Trevor went to play ball up at Northwestern in Chicago, so he understands it. But we're getting towards the end of March, and it kind of came in like a lion, so we're hoping to get like a lamb. Yesterday we had a inter squad track meet, blue and white, and it was about 50 degrees. The sun went away at about 5 p.m. and it ended up, high 40s, low 50s. And for us in Northeast, it's not a bad temperature. But for these athletes who have to carry a pole, right? It's the only implement, right, that throws the athlete. Every other implement, a discus, a shot, a javelin,
you're thrown.
They throw the implement. But in the pole vault, the implement throws you, the human. And so I am more cognizant of our weather and conditions. I've said, a tailwind can be good, but even too much wind at your back can be overwhelming because then your step can be off. But there are all conditions that we have to deal with. And I'll tell a great story before we kind of get into questioning. The guy whose record I broke in high school, he went out to California for a national meet. And earlier in the week, Coach Sanford kind of catered to him as the athlete he was, but we were getting a crosswind during practice, or they were getting a crosswind at practice. And so he kind of shut it down early a few times. And then they get out to California. And what type of wind do you think was there during the competition? The same crosswind that they should have been practicing into. So it's one of those things where I know for kids, it's like, hey, bring your gloves, bring your hand warmers. We used to use the old muff from football that you wear around your waist. So I use that, put one on my pole, one on my waist, hands. But you gotta learn to get comfortable being
uncomfortable. 100%.
Our athletes all performed really well under the conditions. And then we have our opening track meet on Tuesday at you ever heard of Fred Bolitnikoff?
Of course.
I was going to say, dude, you started shaking her head. I'm like, please. So Hall of Fame receiver. So we actually are competing. The city of Erie has combined schools a few years back. And so they just built a brand new 6-lane track, beautiful facility down Erie. And it's at Fred Bolitnikoff Field. He was in town to dedicate it last year. And it is literally they're hosting their first track meet, and it's a dual meet against Fort LaBeouf where I coach. And so it should be a great time, but it's on April 1st, April Fool's Day next Tuesday. And so we've been trying to get ready for it. But it was like in football, right? You work all week, put in all that, and then you want to punch and cash out that paycheck on Saturday or on Sunday. And so I tell these kids, with all the work we've put through the winter, even back into last summer, from June through September, all of that work culminates to the outdoor season that officially begins on Tuesday. And I think our kids are really prepared. The other thing I tell kids in training is always train beyond perfection, because we know in competition it falls away a little bit. And so we just want to train. In fact, I'm going to read it for you because I just sent it to all our agents. Did you see that wrestling Wyatt Hendrickson from Oklahoma State beat the Olympic champ in the heavyweight division, and Trump was there for it?
No, I did not.
Yeah, so Trump went to the NCAA wrestling championships, and of course he's got a time management thing as the president, but the heavyweight hadn't wrestled, and he's like, that's my guy. I think he's in the Coast Guard. But I read this quote to my athletes, and it's one of the best things I've heard in a long time. Wyatt Hendrickson says, you never rise to the level of your expectations. You fall to the level of your training. And I mean, it still gives me goosebumps, because, it doesn't matter what people see. It's what you do when no one else is watching.
Exactly.
I told the kids, my brother and I, we used to say, somewhere someone is practicing, and when you meet them, they will beat you.
Yeah.
If you're not also training, if you're taking a day off, someone out there
is working.
is putting that work in, and if you're not, you better get to it. So yeah, it's been I've missed you the last 2 weeks to flush out a lot of what I've got going on back
That's
here.
a nice hat, by the way. I like that hat.
Oh, don't tell my wife, Yukon Nation. It just came in the mail this morning. She saw the
Yeah,
sitting on.
I like it. I like
Listen,
it.
Mackenzie always notes, "Hey, is that new?" It's like, yeah, shh, keep it quiet. This is what they send me as alumni. That's what I tell people. Yeah, this is not from the Yukon Husky shop. This is Andy Baylock hooks me up. No,
So
no, no.
I gotta give you Razul's number. They're
Yeah.
having a fundraising dinner on April 19th at the Swift Factory for the House of Changes. And I was talking to them because you talk so much about the DSEI whatever profile.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something that he really is interested in and
Yeah,
interesting in learning
sure.
about the different personalities. And the different personalities affects how you approach them in business.
Yeah.
So I told them, I told Razul that I'd have you talk with him and
Oh,
kind of walk through because I know you live by that
oh,
profile and
listen,
you recognize it fast.
it is one of the greatest qualities I think that you can build up
Yes,
the understanding of, and it should promote empathy because again, and then you roll in that question behind the question of a personal accountability, and it just makes you look at people differently, or it should, because again, it is like I brought it up with my athletes. Like I have one kid, one of the hardest working kids on the squad, and before he even lands in the pit, sometimes he's saying out loud the things that he think he did wrong. It's like, hey, dude, we'll coach you, but it's his personality. It's
right,
you can't try to change him, but it's like, let's talk about it. I want you to try to reduce the negative talk, verbally. I understand it's still going in your head if it's coming out of your mouth, but like, you don't worry about what you think you did. And the biggest thing for vaulters, it's why we train so hard and drill so hard, is so that you don't have to think on the runway. As soon as you come down and say, I thought,
yeah,
boom. Um,
exactly,
so again, but understanding personalities and why people are the way they are, it will help you not to fault them as much. And then also it helps you understand how you are and how you react to certain types of people. Because that stuff tends to bother me because I think I have learned from like you need to be a better listener, especially as an athlete, right? But coaches also. And that's where I ask my kids, am I the verbiage I'm using? I'll change some things sometimes just to see what clicks. But I think as a coach, it's our responsibility to understand the different personalities of our athletes, because we all know the athlete who we can really grind on, like we used to
right.
get, but we also know the kid who you will break them if
Everyone's different.
and so that's where I would love, man, I would even love to do something. I'm no expert on it, but it's something that I think about and utilize every day. And then you combine that with Eisenhower's, matrix of productivity, and
Right,
it just really helps to clarify your day, your week, your month, your season.
of
Um,
course.
because the thing I talk to our kids about right now, in athletic training, you talk about what's periodization, and that is peaking at the right moment. And so for any of our
Yes,
kids, a lot of them are multi athletes. Like, I don't need you peaking at the end of March. I need you peaking in the middle of May when it's
May,
championship
June.
season.
Yeah,
And so, like,
right.
part of what we're doing, especially with some of the athletes that jumped in the summer, in the fall or winter, is that we got to break down the foundation of their run and plant, because it's come so naturally that they're working on the inversion, and then you start to fall off on some of the important things like the run and the tall plant. So I think, again, as a coach, understanding, like, we have other kids that just started 3 or 4 weeks ago. Like, I got a kid never touched a pole until March 4th, and he cleared 9 feet last night with an incredible triangle, a great knee drive. It again, what I love is that these kids don't even understand how amazing it is. And so I
No,
love that. And then you also have some kids that their expectations are so high for themselves. And you go back to that Wyatt Hendrickson quote, and it's like, hey, listen, you fall to the level of your training. I don't care what your expectations are. I can assure you, I probably have higher expectations than every one of my athletes.
absolutely.
you fall to level your training. And listen, it's like in real estate. I don't call my agents to ask them if they're out prospecting. It's like I don't reach out to my vultures on the weekend and say, "Hey, are you drilling? Are you watching, videos on Instagram?" Well, like, you got to be self-motivated to do the things that I coach and I brokerage for. And the reason I'm in these two categories is because I'm self-motivated myself, and I will not cow prod you. I want you to want it. And so, yeah, I would love to talk to Razul about the DISC profiling. And then you get into Carl Jung's color energies and things like that. And we can get pretty deep down the rabbit's hole. But yeah, I think it's very important, again, in business, in life, with your family, and then, of course, in the athletic realm too. So very
Yeah,
cool.
because they're trying to get some corporate sponsorships for the fundraising dinner that they're
Yeah.
having. And I told him that the profile, recognizing the different personalities, will help him,
Oh,
recognize who he's dealing with, the best way to approach them, what they want to hear, if they're going to want to chit chat or if they're going to want to just get down to business.
yeah.
And that's something that he has to understand. And the profile actually helped me get a sale for him.
Nice.
Well, he needed to do some digital marketing for this event. And I've tried to explain that to him because it's a fundraising event.
Mhm.
And it's not like I tried to tell him, like, he's like, oh, I gotta, we have some connections. I got a great feeling and Jesus is with me. And, I think like when the week, the week of the event, we're going to start selling out. And I try to say, I said, Razul, it's a fundraising dinner. It's not a concert. It's not a sporting event. It's not
Mhm.
something that it's an impulse buy. It's
Right.
something people are going to buy ahead of time.
Yeah.
People don't know about this. We have to raise awareness for this
Yeah.
event. It's
Sure.
crucial that we do that.
Yeah.
So I said, we could do Google ads. Google ads is very, very effective. You can pick a target search words
Yeah.
like dinner, fundraiser, charity, giving back, philanthropy, whatever.
Yeah.
And people who search those words, a banner ad for Razul's
Event.
fundraising dinner at the Swift Factory will come up.
Yeah.
And if you search for sneakers and you go to a website, you start seeing ads for sneakers.
Right.
And
Right.
that's kind of how this works. So I said, we need to do Google AdWords. We'll have a banner ad. People click on the banner ad, and it takes them directly to Eventbrite where they can buy tickets to the event.
Yeah.
And it's all trackable. I can
Yeah.
tell you how many impressions you got, and the impressions are basically people who saw the banner ad. And then
Right.
I can tell you the
Click
clicks
through.
that you got,
Yeah.
and then you can see how many tickets that you got out of it. And he was against it at first, and then we got on a call last night with a couple members of his team. I'm like, guys, you need this. I mean, right now, they pushed the event to April 19th. It was supposed to be March 22nd.
Yeah.
They had 20 tickets sold. And I said, that's because you have no awareness. I got Joe D'Ambrosia, Joe D. Joe's doing live reads on a show for
Wow.
free. He's doing one live read per show on every day for free, which is incredible. I talked to Kevin Freeman at UConn about getting involved, and he said absolutely, and he's going to put it on the national or the C Club site, and he's going to try to put it around campus. And if Razul wants to come to campus, he can do that. But I said we really got to hit our target audience
Yeah.
of people who have disposable income and people who want to support this cause because it's going to benefit the community.
Sure.
And they want to build another house for men, and they have case management, uh, they have a social worker, they have mental health services. They're doing everything they can to put these men in a position of success to
Yeah.
rebuild their lives. So that's what I was telling him about. And I was telling him, like, if you want corporate sponsors, Laban's the guy that you could talk to because Laban can tell you about the profile, about recognizing the different personalities, and that can help with your approach with how you
Yeah,
present your situation to them to try to get them on board. So
100%.
that's what I had mentioned I wanted to do with them.
Yeah, and I think that's it, right? With stuff like that, it's got to be ease of use. And you have the people that deep personality that's just like, let me donate. Like where I don't I just make it easy as possible for them.
Yeah. Yep.
The S personality, especially, is the one who, especially if they've been through anything like this, the hardships, or known somebody that has, they
Correct.
and so most, especially with donations, I think people want to know they're really affecting a cause and
What
doing
it's
something.
going towards. Right.
Exactly. And I tell people that all the time. Like we do a local down home days, and so we want to sponsor something specific that's going to help the event function and whatever else. So I think anything you can target that, and then also level up like tiering things as the old gold, bronze, platinum, and explaining what each of those does. And I probably know because we get solicited all the time from local sporting events, different things like that. But yeah, I mean, anytime, and so a lot of people that whether they tithe or give offerings to different places, I know that like for a lot of people, well, I should speak for myself. Like there are times where if I know there's something specific going on, I can redirect the funds that I would typically give on a regular basis. But to your point, like I want to know that ahead of time so that essentially I can budget for it just like anything
Yeah.
else. So
Yeah,
uh,
they
I
do
hope,
that at the church that I go to. They have the 2 buckets, the
yeah.
regular tithing and then the tithing for the whatever the event or
Benevolent fun. I mean,
purpose
there's a
is.
lot, and that's where even, I'd love to create a pole vault club, and my concern with a pole vault club is for the people who might not be able to afford it. But there's ways to create a benevolent fund that part of the revenue from anything you can earmark and set aside for the people who can't necessarily afford but want to be a part of it and feel the inclusion. Um, but there's so many
Are
different
there
ways.
pole vault clubs that, like, go to tournaments? And there
Oh,
are.
yeah, I mean, there's pole vault clubs throughout the country. A buddy of mine runs the Philly Jump Club. He's got one of the best girls in the country right now, and it's really put a challenge and a strain on high school athletic programs because, like, we do not have a specific club up here in Erie where a lot of people jump, but there's a place down in Mercer where, I mean, we've got one of our athletes that goes down there. And that the guy who runs that is a college coach, but there's another one down in Pittsburgh where a high school coach runs it. So he coaches 7 or 8 different school kids. But then when you get to the high school meets, a lot of times that high school might not have a pole vault coach. And so that's why they go to the club. But it's made it really challenging because a lot of the club vaulters who don't have a vaulting program at their school can only compete PIAA with their school, but they might not have the resources. And so they rent poles or find some, or a lot of times, I mean, I'll see athletes show up with one pole and I pray it's
Oh, okay.
right, right size
Yeah.
pole. And I mean, because with our kids, we'll run through in a single meet, one kid could be on 4 or 5 different poles, depending
Oh,
on
Jesus.
all the elements of the day, his speed there, her speed, her takeoff angle. Like there is a lot that goes into it. But I don't mean to digress on where we were going there. But yeah, I mean, profiling people and their nature for giving is something where again, I think if they can feel an attachment to it, and it doesn't have to be tangible outside of knowing that it's going to a good cause and that it's that the funds are being properly utilized. So I would say if they could provide anything, like, has he done a house like this before? Doesn't he have one right now?
That's what the fundraiser is for, the House of Changes. Yeah,
But
it's
that's the
to.
second. Doesn't he have one already in operation?
No, he only has one. He wants to
Okay.
get another one. He has a property in mind that they're probably going to get with their that investment group. I think they're going to go in on it. But
Okay.
this is specifically to help for this house,
Yeah.
and any proceeds left over would go to purchase another house. And he wants to purchase them all over the state.
Well,
That's
and
his
again,
goal.
so whether you're raising money for the acquisition cost, but I mean, like you could even break it down and say, hey, for X amount of a donation, it's going to go to the kitchen cabinetry, or it's going to go to
Right.
the bedroom
Right.
vanity. I mean, like, you can earmark things and almost, and again, if you want, the transparency is always better. If you can show, through your budget and expectations and where somebody can pick up and earmark a donation for something specific, again, they'll feel that attachment to it. That's the best way, to sell anything. The more specific and targeted you can get, not only with your audience, with your offering and what they're going to get for their donation. Because again, some people will do it in kind, but a lot of people want the recognition, whether it's for their business or for themselves. You know what I mean? It just depends.
Yeah, that's why I definitely I think he should talk to you, because I know that he's somewhat stressed out about it, because
Oh,
he's never done anything like this before,
yeah,
and they've put a lot into it, and they got a pretty good team. But I think that you could help him a lot with that, because they need corporate sponsorships. They have meetings with different businesses,
mhm,
but I want to make sure that he handles them the right way.
yeah,
Like we did I did a promo to promote the event, a video, and Razul and his partner did one, and they kind of struggled with it, and mine was much better, and they wanted to use mine, and I was like, it's your event. He's like, no, but you're speaking. I mean, you should do it. I mean, you had the passion and the energy, and you did it off of memory, and because they were kind of reading off a script.
yeah,
um, but that's why I think you could help him, because it's his first time doing it. They have lofty goals of what they want to do.
yeah.
They're starting their commercial real estate business. Really, it's going to be next week. It's going to open.
Wow.
So they got a lot going on, and I
Yeah,
mean, their goal is really to impact the community.
yeah.
Um, you had a question. Let's
Hey,
see.
before we
Yeah,
get into that question, can I uh, mention one thing that
sure.
it occurred earlier in the week? I shared it with our athletes. And again, I know you, of course, have had head trauma like I have. And I tell people all the time, I live by my phone, and I want to share this, as humbling as it is and as frustrating it is. It's one of the little things that we deal with head trauma. Last week I had called, yeah, week and a half ago, I called to get my Suburban in for service, needed the inspection updated, everything else. And so the guy's like, all right, bring it in Monday morning. I'm like, well, I'll drop it off Sunday night after our dinners, our family dinner. And so Sunday night, I'm cutting my dad's hair, my son's hair, and my mom said, hey, do you need me to take you down home? And I'm like, yeah, I'll drop off Drew and be right there. And as we're driving down, I'm like, you know what? Something doesn't feel right. Let me check my phone if it is actually Sunday night. I'm supposed to drop this off. And sure enough, it was this coming Sunday night. So
Oh, you were a week away.
I call my mom and I'm on my way down. I'm like, hey, mom, I am so sorry. Like, I apologize. I don't know what I was thinking. I got too much on my plate. And so she's like, hey, not a big deal. She goes home. So that was Sunday night. Now, Monday, right? I'm going about my day and it's about noon. And my dad reached out about coordinating with the kids for something. And all of a sudden I panic. I'm like, Dad, I need you to take me to Hallman to pick up my Suburban. And he sends me
Nice.
a message, even in the text message. He's like, I thought your mom said that was next week. And to his comment, I put a question mark, got done doing what I was
Yeah.
doing. Goes
Yeah.
up at the house. And he looks at me, he's like, "Dude, you okay?" And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, my Suburban's in the garage. That's next." I'm like, "I cannot believe." I'm like,
Yeah.
but it was like, I knew it wasn't true Sunday night, but then Monday I get going and everything, and I like panic that I totally forgot my Suburban. How am I going to get the pole vault poles to practice?
Yeah. It happens.
Like, it didn't even like, oh, it was
Didn't
so
cross your mind.
frustrating. It's like, I'm not that dumb. I'm not like, but I start panicking when I forget things, and I live by my phone.
No, that's why you're so organized.
I'll be doing that. Oh, it's so frustrating. So I just wanted to share that. I'm doing fine. I'm doing
No,
fine.
that's
You have
good.
those you have those instances, and it's like I can't beat myself up. Now I'm wondering what my mom and dad were thinking earlier this week. Like, dude, this dude's losing his mind. We got to watch him. But I had a lot going on, and again, I do have it in my phone, and I will get that all done. But okay, let's get to some questions. But I just wanted to share in all humility some of the things that those who have suffered with concussions will do and do repeatedly. And it then takes me that the story where I'll be telling a story and somebody that I'm telling it to says, "Yeah, I was with you." And
I
I'm
was
like,
there. Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
sorry about that. It wasn't that it wasn't important. I just forgot that little detail that you witnessed it. So yeah, it happens to us who've suffered with head trauma, but forge ahead, find your solutions to avoid those problems, and give yourself some forgiveness, because yeah, whether it's a lot going on or whatever else, stress, something like that. But all right, so let's get into some real estate questions.
So Kevin from Wesleyville, he likes the show and gets some very good information from it and appreciates the time you put in.
Thank you.
He wants to know, he has a rental property and he wanted to know about raising rent,
Mm.
because the cost of living goes up, water, utilities, everything goes up. What is a typical manageable number to be able to raise rent without causing, stress or headache on your renters?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And, I actually was talking to my property manager earlier this week about it, because, we've had, in fact, I had somebody reach out to me about a home that I own specifically. He wanted, his daughter was looking for a place to rent, and he knew the home because we shared a backyard when we both lived in those homes there. And so he reached out and he's like, "Hey, my daughter would really love to live there." And I said, "Well, the one across the street just came up." And he's like, "No, she really wants this home." And I don't know if there's nostalgia or what, but the tenant that we have there has been there for 6 or 7 years. And, when Marcus, my property manager, told me where the rent was, it's a pretty good amount, but it is below fair market rent. So I could probably get a couple $100 more if I did rent it to the new girl that inquired. But this person's been such a great tenant. I said to Marcus, I said, "Do me a favor, see if she will sign a 3-year lease with an escalation each year." And I don't remember what the rent was. It's a 3-bed, 1 bath. So let's say rent is $975 right now. And I said, have her sign a new lease when it comes up for $1,000 a month this year in 25, 1,025 in 2026, and then 1,050.
Oh, that's not bad.
That way, as a landlord, I don't have to worry about going back each year, but I also know I have a 3-year commitment to where I can just maintain it, take care of it. She's been a great tenant. I don't want to kick her out just because somebody, and I have no experience with the tenant who's inquiring. They're from, a great pedigree, but when I have somebody in place, I personally would rather keep them. Most managers would.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we do have some owners that are like, no, if their lease is up, I want to market it for top dollar. And then so you run that scenario by a tenant, and they're like, they have to debate. Okay, say my rent's $975, and my landlord's talking about taking it to $1,100. Can I go out and find what I have for under $1,100? Because if I can't, or if I can, but it's 1,050, do I want to go through the headache of moving out, coming up with first month's rent deposit, last month's rent,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
really, like, the inconvenience factor is something that I always tell landlords. It's not to press tenants, because yes, you want to be profitable, but like you're saying, when you have, depending on if you cover utilities for the tenants, most of the time in single families, I haven't put gas and electric in their own name, but I do keep
You do. Yeah.
water and sewer, because if a tenant stops paying those, it becomes a municipal lien against the property.
Right.
And
Right.
there's ways to get around that, but that's where the management is critical. And it just really depends on how much do you want to press fair market value, and how much do you value a long-term tenant that has taken care of the place, pays rent on time, and you have that established relationship. So it's a very good question. I don't know percentage wise. I mean, like, what's that? So from 975, call it $1,000 a month. I wanted to go up $25.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
5%, something like that. So about that, less than that,
Yeah,
3%,
that's
and a lot of times maybe it just rises with inflation, which had been hovering at 2. You know what I mean? So if you put in a 3% increase annually, and then again, I think that's the beauty of real estate. You can do a 1-year lease, you can do a 5-year lease. What, and then who do they buy? Buy that lease, and yeah. So I think that's a very good question, and it's a personal decision for a landlord. The last thing I would say, especially when a new tenant comes in, because you kind of want to set an understanding where it's like, hey, rent usually does go up $15 to $20 each year. Now, what I like to do is at year one, when they go to renew, I say, hey, and as long as they have paid on time and they've been a good tenant, it's like usually I bump rent, but I'm going to leave you here for one more year just because you've been so great. Right. And so but then you have to remember that following year, it's like, remember last year I let you skate. So I do have to just stay caught up. And so rent, instead of going up 10 or $15, last year, like it was going to, maybe it's going to go up $20 this year, 25. So again, it's relative to the rent value. If you're renting $3,500 to $4,000 a month, maybe it's $125 increase. It just is somewhat relative to that. So good question, Kevin, out of Wesleyville.
Cindy from Northeast wanted to know, when do you think it will become a buyer's market once again?
So that's a great question. And I actually sat down with a seller on Thursday. They're in the preliminary start to look for a new home. He's got a big family. He'd like to have a little more acreage. And so, he's looking at selling his home. And it's a bit of a process, but I told him, in my 22 years in the market, I think there have been 4 cycles where a seller was able to get virtually top dollar, but also purchase for a reasonable amount. And that's whether the home was saturated on the market for a while, whatever it may be. But there's only been 4 times in my 22 years where you're able to do both. And so, to Cindy's question of when will it be a buyer's market, we are starting to see it tip towards that, because like the home that my seller was looking at has already been on the market, I think 93 days in a very good school district and area for what it seems like a pretty reasonable price. So when you start to see homes sitting on the market a little bit longer, and with this home specifically, it was listed, I think, at 475, it's down to 450. So in 95 days, they've made a $25,000 price reduction, but a home is worth what a buyer's willing to pay. And so you have to be cognizant of days on market. So 98 days on market, that's over 3 or 4 months. Now, that means they listed it in November, December, which can be slower times for us. But I also tell sellers the winter months are when, with a buyer's out there looking to buy, they should be selling within 30 days for sure. So I don't have a crystal ball. If I did, I'd be in Aruba. But, it is starting to turn into more of a buyer's market from a seller's market. But the homes I sold in the last 10 days, 1 was at asking price, 2 were over asking price, and 1 had 3 offers. So like you're not having 7 to 10 offers as much right now. Certain homes priced properly could, but it is starting to shift from the rage of 22 and 23, at least a little bit, in my opinion. Still a strong seller's market though, but I don't have a crystal ball when this will shift.
We actually had a question from somebody out in California who was concerned about obviously the wildfires and the natural disasters that occur in that area. How much does that affect the value of a property? Does it make it more expensive? Does it make it less expensive? What is the impact of being in an area that may have more natural disasters?
Oh, I think the biggest challenge you're finding is with insurance right now, and
Right.
and there the problem with not being able to get insurance is that every mortgage company and almost every loan requires homeowners insurance on the property so that they feel safe in their investment. So, and I'm not familiar with California's market, but just in
Right.
general, I know like we had a young lady from California looking at Erie's market because it is so low on the natural disaster list. I mean, we
Right.
get a lot of snow, but we don't see so many of the things that factor into whether it's California, the Midwest with tornadoes, or California wildfires. So I think a lot of people are doing, that due diligence on data collection and things and seeing where natural disasters are less likely to occur. But then you roll into that insurance factor, and that seems to be spurring the market almost more than the actual natural disasters. So, like,
Wow.
well, that's a brutal question. How do they rebuild? You know what I mean? And under
Yeah.
what conditions? And yeah, I mean,
And you got to use different materials, and that's always an issue too.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, it is.
we had a question from Ralph, who is in Erie, who asked, what are the HOA fees and restrictions, and how might they impact the property's value and usability? What's an HOA?
Oh, so an HOA is a homeowners association,
Oh,
and
do we
uh,
have those?
oh my goodness, yes, you probably live in an HOA, bro. I bet
Oh,
you.
okay.
I've been to your home. You might be
Oh,
in an.
okay.
I myself, I'm on 24 acres in Summit, so far away from an HOA. No, but we actually, for our property management company, we manage an HOA. And so we take care of a lot of their external maintenance, right? And so many HOAs, it depends. Like you can get into petty things like, are you allowed sheds? Are you allowed pools? Are you allowed fences? What type
It's
of
that extensive. Wow.
But what people that are in HOAs usually love being like they love that they're the C personalities that love the rules. They love to
Yes.
follow along.
Yes.
Love to point out when Sally isn't
Love the
following the rules.
control. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So an HOA is a homeowners association, and there a lot of times it is for the good of the. That's where when you talk about will I lose value? I mean, the HOAs feel like they set them up to reduce their ability to lose value, right? When in fact, I
Okay.
think the constraints of HOAs tend to dissipate the value.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's definitely HOAs that say no pools or no above ground pools. You can have below ground pools. Like, I don't know if that's an opulence thing. But a lot of times it comes down to safety. Like, you definitely have, this is not an HOA thing, but mentioning pools, like a lot of local law is you have to have a 4-foot fence for safety purposes. You don't want animals or kids being able to, fall in, things like that. So, but an HOA, and I chuckle because again, we manage an HOA, and I have an outstanding person. It's not Marcus, but another one of my agents that runs the HOA, and she handles them with white gloves. But it is a white glove typical scenario. And then you got guys like if you went on Instagram and like had HOA hatings going on or whatever, like there are people that I'm not kidding you, they have to mow their lawn in straight lines. And so there's a guy that will do a little, oh yeah, oh man, like this is, I don't want to say crazy of the crazies.
They're very
It's,
strict.
it's a very, yeah, an HOA, somebody that lives in an HOA tends to enjoy following the rules, or their spouse brought them into the HOA and they are so defiant they will do anything and everything to walk that fine line of an HOA. So yeah, Ralph, and again, the suburbs are more where you see the HOAs. There's not many places in the city of Erie where they have an HOA per se, but it's a lot. It's similar to like zoning for a township where it dictates the kind of building material or, an HOA, the size of the home. Like you don't want to have a subdivision and all the homes are 3,000 square feet. And then all of a sudden Joe Builder comes along and builds a 1,200 square foot, that in theory brings down value. So there's certain, whether it's building materials, building size, building footprint, that an HOA might dictate. But yeah, anytime you move in, and these are all things like the other thing is the stability of the HOA. because when you go to finance a home or a condominium and HOA, they're going to look at what you have in the reserves. And if your HOA is poorly run, it can really hinder a potential buyer's financing of that property. And so for us, we take pride in the HOA we manage because we want to help, and our focus is on the resale when those things come up. So it's a good question from Ralph and Erie, but yeah, HOAs, we could go down the rabbit hole on HOAs. Some people love them, other people can't stand them, and I try to stay away outside of the management side.
We had a couple questions basically asking about if you're looking at a property, do you look at the property's potential for future developments or upgrades as you're evaluating it? Like when you're looking at something, can you
Yeah,
say, "Oh, well, this has the potential for this or that, and we can upgrade here, and we can make more value there"?
listen, it is literally how I made what we made in real estate. I mean, everything we purchase at 60 cents on the dollar with the upside potential for improvement. And sincerely, like we made sure it had good bones. But there were so many things that, especially if it's mismanaged, like the 11 unit that I bought was undervalued, mismanaged. Like the tenants would always say, hey, the owner would just barge in and things. So there's great, you can increase value on these places even by the way you manage them, and giving people more of a level of comfort knowing that you won't do some of the things the shady landlord did before you or whatever else.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah.
Okay. Sean wanted to know basically, how can I protect myself from potential scams or fraudulent activities in a real estate transaction?
Man, it's getting more and more difficult. I would say use a real
Yeah.
estate professional,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we have just seen instances. I saw somebody post it the other day, and it happens more, it seems, with the rental side than it does on the sale side. But like we've had people show up to a homeowner's house and say, "Hey, I paid 2 months worth of rent to rent this home," and they're like, "What are you talking about? I own and live in this home." And somewhere somebody posted an ad, and it used to happen on Craigslist a lot, where they would mark, they just pull data from online and then they post it saying it's for rent when the owner doesn't even have it for sale, or like it gets crazy. So to have a licensed professional in your corner to make sure they're vetting out, these buyers and sellers, because the solicitation that goes on and the fraudsters out there, it is pretty crazy. But I think that's where local real estate professionals are your best bet, because a lot of times if you come to them with something that sounds fraudulent, they've already run through it 2 or 3 times and can tell you and advise you on what to do and what
Oh, right.
red flags to look at. I mean, and that's where I said for property management, like we have 3 office locations that you can come to, sit down, drop your rent check or your deposits, and know that this is a real estate professional office that you're dealing with, you know. And sometimes people mistaken ease of use and online payments with good old fashioned face to face, shake hands, and get to know who you're spending your money with. And I think that's always been the value of real estate and real estate professionals, is that they know the market, they know the type of scams that are trying to be had. I mean, we had, it was probably a decade ago, but the local board had to post a picture of a guy who was going out to open houses, and we don't have open houses that much anymore, looking for narcotics,
Oh,
searching
that's nice.
cabinets and things. And so we had
Yeah.
enough agents report them that you just want to be cognizant, because you don't know to what extent they will go to, for that. And so
Oh, they'll go to every extent
oh
for that.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And again, I think understanding that and that fact, because a lot of people are like, oh, don't worry about it. It's the same thing with guns. Like, put your guns away, take them to your new house. Like, don't just leave your gun in the corner. I mean, you would think it's common sense, but the same thing with your medication. Like, put your medication away when you're showing homes. I mean, I don't put them in a purse, lock them up, have a safe, something. But, we as real estate agents, often can get lulled to sleep by people just because you want a sale. And it's like, if things sound fishy, you might want to do some due diligence or take somebody with you, make sure you have
Yeah.
taken the right steps, precautionary, to make sure that you're safe and that you're not going to be coming into some scam artist that really has no intention of buying anything.
And I know you've already mentioned this before, but another question that was asked a few times was basically, how is the current interest rate environment impacting affordability and demand for housing? Because the interest rates you said aren't terrible right now, correct?
They're not terrible. I closed last Friday, first time home buyer couple. They got 6.875 interest rate. She's a nurse. He works for Pepsi. Great young couple. So they're both, what we call dinks, dual income, no kids. And so it's something where qualification wise, they might have been able to afford even a little bit more. But I tell sellers this especially, buyers are looking for a monthly payment. And in that monthly payment, the acronym is PITI, PITI. It's principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And so the home that they bought is in the Fort LaBeouf School District, pretty favorable taxes as far as relative to the rest of the market. But all of those things roll into their monthly payment. And when I looked at where they were renting for the past few years versus owning their own home, I think their rent was a little bit less than what their mortgage payment is. But the fact that every mortgage payment is a little bit in their savings of equity goes so much further than paying rent to any landlord. And so I've said that before. I don't care what the interest rate is. If you're renting, buy something, right? And then if rates come down, you can always refinance. But I also tell people, because it was and it's not based on the Fed per se or how quickly that changes. But recently there was some drops, and so people jump all over it, right? But
Right.
if you wait and say, well, I hope they come down a little bit, and then they go up a quarter point, they're not going to let you get that rate when you didn't want to sign it a week ago.
No,
So
absolutely.
in that process, they'll get quoted a rate, and by the time it closes, it may have changed a little bit one way or the other. And then there's way that you can buy down rates and things like that. But I would say interest rates are not impeding buyers in our market. Purchase prices are still fairly reasonable. Like even the home they bought, they couldn't build it for what they paid. My fear, if interest rates do start to come down rather quickly, is that it's a double-edged sword, because if they come down, that's going to create more demand for buyers, and we don't have the inventory of
We don't
sellers.
have the inventory, right?
If it comes down low enough, and I'm talking in the fives, if it can get in the fives, you might be able to get some of these homeowners that are locked into the high twos and low threes. It might be worth them to consider selling, which is what we really do need. Is we need inventory. But
Yes.
even when I talked to another guy that was selling, like he's got a 3.25 interest rate. And so he realizes that when he goes to buy and you sell that home, you sell that interest rate. And that is where, for our property management division, the last time we saw rates start to go up, we're talking 15 years ago, that's when I started to tell people, hey, listen, if you don't sell this home, you'll keep your 3.25 or 2.75 rate. I'm going to manage it for you. We're going to make sure we get as much rent as we can to help cover your debt service. But if you're in a position with savings and you want to go buy something else without selling that rate, you can turn it into a property management opportunity, retain that interest rate for as long as you want to. And if it positively cash flows, it might be a nice piece for your portfolio. So talk to your real estate agent. If you're looking to buy but have a house that's locked into a really low interest rate, talk to somebody local about taking that over. What could you get for rent? Is it worth using it and letting it become a rental property, and you go build or buy what you want at the current rates, but at least you don't have to get rid of that. And a lot of people are going to use the equity from that home to purchase. But if you're in the unique situation where you can leverage the equity with another loan or something, there's ways to do it, but do not let the interest rates or the level of inventory stop you from getting in the real estate game. It's
Right.
always market for somebody, and it's got to make both parties, comply to make it work. So yeah, I think the market is going to continue to improve for buyers potentially, and part of that's because values truly are more stabilized, but they've been on the rise so much the last couple years. You have to look and say, if they continue to rise, I got to get in now.
Right. And that makes a lot of sense. That does make a lot of sense. I have to mention our other sponsor. We have Fresh himself, Ned Von Young, with the Fresh Fold Laundry Company, located in Carborough, North Carolina. They are the top of the line service. They offer online scheduling. You can schedule a washer or dryer online. They offer an online subscription model, weekly or bi-weekly. You can go in and do your laundry. They also wash, dry, and fold your clothes at land speed records. And all you have to do is go to their website, which is freshfold-laundry.com, and see all the services they have to offer and get signed up for one of them. And then, as we mentioned before, April 19th, the Swift Factory for the House of Changes. Razul Wallace and his team are having a massive fundraiser. Chef Cisco, who is legendary throughout Connecticut, there will be hors d'oeuvres, there will be a DJ. It is for an incredible cause. We need donations to help these men rebuild their lives and take the next step into society so they can live independently. And they are also looking to purchase other properties so they can give more men opportunities to have beds to sleep in. The house they have now has 8 beds. They want to get 2 or 3 more houses so more men can have places to sleep, and social workers, mental health care, case management. So they'll be able to get employment and live independently. That is the goal. It's going to be a phenomenal event, and I am the keynote speaker. The tickets can be purchased on Eventbrite. The link is on our Facebook page. Make sure you go there. You can click and buy tickets. And there will also be, you can bring gifts and different things that you want to donate. We are going to have an auction, and all the proceeds will go to the House of Changes and everything that they're doing. And they're also looking for corporate sponsorships. So make sure to sign up and help Razul and his team. Any donation, any corporate sponsorship will go a long way to help them. So for Laban Marsh, another banner episode. Answered a lot of good questions there. You got a lot done.
Great to be with you, brother. I love talking real estate, as you know.
And people love talking to you. I'm going to pass on Razul's number to you, so he can give you a call, because I think that profile can help him with in the next few weeks, because they got a lot of meetings. Be able to secure some corporate sponsorships, which would be huge for them. And you'll be good. You'll be a great advisor for him, because he's nervous, and you can talk him through on how to handle everything. So
I'd be happy to help. I'm no expert, but I will do
you're a pretty good expert. You're the king of Erie. You're the king of real estate in Erie. That's all that counts. So for the great Laban Marsh, king of real estate in Erie, I am Steve Cully, the best podcast host in the universe. Remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges, throw them right back at life.